welcome all once again to another edition of the Bayou City Soccer Podcast of the Orange and Blueprints. The good news, if everyone that loves the NWSL, it's back again. It's back from the summer break. It felt like it was too long, but I think it was needed. I think if you support the Dash, I think you need that break. But it's a good time to reflect and to once we get back to season start to look at what the second half season goes, and of course this week's game. But as your host Manny, I'm always here to bring you all this Dash news. But I'm not here alone. I got my boy Diego.
How's it going? How's it going, everybody? I'm happy to be back for our second straight Orange and Blueprints episode. The NWSL is back, meaning we are so back, and I am so happy to be here.
Yeah, bro. I know it's. I think it's been a while. I think it's just like okay, we're trying like. I feel like it's preseason all over again. Like I don't know nothing about the team. And it's like, and going in, it's like, oh, I forgot how things are, how what we left off and everything. But it's a good thing. It's a good refresher to get back, get everything,
Mhm.
and see where we're at. Uh, you know, just to give us a full I think not preview, but I think just an oversight where we left off for the Dash. The Dash, the Dash currently sits in 12th place, with only 7 points away from the last playoff zone position. Pretty not not the best, but still, something that you want to look for. Their overall record at the moment is 3 wins, 2 draws, and 7 losses. And I think, of course, as you know from Dash, they only got 1 win at home and 2 draws, and they basically mostly get their points away. If it was focused on away, I think the Dash will be the top. You know, I think going from this, I think we just want to talk with you guys. I think just mostly just what we're looking forward in this second half of the season. I think overall thoughts, Diego. What do you expect the Dash should do now after coming from this break? Should do in the second half of the season.
I think that's kind of a good question because I feel like we need to remember that the Dash were in a much worse spot last season. I understand that this isn't necessarily the start that we wanted. We have a lot of talent on this roster, and there's definitely we had a lot of opportunities to really get points where we really didn't. Um, and like highlighting the games that are coming up for us, we've got a pretty strong Bay FC that's around our level in the standings. We've got NC Courage, which we fell against the Gotham FC, who is led by Esther Gonzalez, which was one of the best players in the Women's Euro this tournament for Spain. Um, Seattle Rain caused us some trouble. Louisville's always a hard time. San Diego, and so on and so forth. And I'm not even talking about later down the season when we get into September when we have to play Washington, Orlando, Angel City again. I think we're going to continue to have these difficult tests. And now the question really is, how are we going to take those almost missed opportunities into points? Either you're like, for example, the Orlando game, you scrapped basically the 90 minutes and then you let out a goal in the final moments. How now the conversation should at least be, how can I get some points out of that instead of just going empty-handed? I feel like we definitely have the talent for it. We just picked up a brand new striker. We talked about that last podcast. And I feel like the Dash certainly have everything in their toolbox to sneak into the playoffs, but it's definitely a mountain to climb. Whereas in the beginning of the season, it was definitely an easier path per se.
Yeah, I think so. I think so as well. I think what's a good thing, a bad thing, I think is that the majority of the games that are going in the second half, the Dash are away. You know, and for some reason, for somehow the Dash seems to perform better away at home. It's just I think this part of their DNA. It's they always perform away. They always I think do their best away, and I think when those away games, they seem to click. They seem to act more. They seem to press more. They seem to gel more and get better chances on the box. And I think hopefully, in this second half of the season, uh, the players are more available now. I think the only trouble position that I see that's gonna be hard is it within these two first weeks and then also back. Reason
Hmm.
why, okay, you have Michelle Alozie. I expect her to be off since she's coming out from the uh, AFCON, the WAFCON win. Of course, you have players that played, internationally for in the Euros and in South America, like Bárbara Olivieri, that she needs some rest after that tournament. So I think you will miss a couple of players, but more importantly, your key players, like Avery Patterson, Yasmin Ryan, Maggie Graham, um, and Messiah Bright, Sheehan and Calaprico are there. So you have that core that's going to be still there. So hopefully, if they can survive these next two games, I think there should be a good up setup for coming up to the season. But uh, I think our expectations moving forward. Uh, I think when we started the podcast, our previous thoughts is that uh, what what was our expectations, and you were just mostly reiterate that they should compete. I think
Hmm.
until the end, and I think last season, like you mentioned, it was hard. They were in the bottom for majority of the season, and I
Hmm.
think it's a blessing in disguise. That we're even though we're not playing the best, there's two teams that play much worse than us.
Hmm.
Chicago's not doing the best season. Utah had a huge turnover like I did, but for some reason they're not doing their best. I think are you still in the main mindset? I think even though we're 7 points is not a lot, but it's still a huge gap. I think looking at the quality ahead of you, you think the Dash can get a run in to overcome the 7 point, or does that seem a tall task for them?
I mean, that's 3 games. I feel like it's certainly possible. I think even if it's tough, even if it looks so far away, you have to think about the mentality of these players. I mean, again, last episode, I talked to Avery. I mentioned how I talked to Avery about this exact same question of you guys are 7 points behind, but also you guys are 7 points behind. You guys are right there in that playoff push. Even if you guys are in what 12th at 11th now, getting in that bottom range of the NWSL, everything can change in 3 games. And now you have the mindset before things get tough, before you play the Washingtons, before you play the Orlandos, to put yourself back in that playoff hunt. My initial reaction when it came to this season during our predictions was we're gonna sneak into the playoff spot, and this is pretty much what we're leading into. We're seeing, can this team really make that last minute effort to get into the playoffs? Are we gonna see it? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. This team has given me a lot of highs. The second half of the San Diego game was extremely good quality. But then there's also the mistakes and errors that happened, and the things along the way, especially during our losses, that just made me really question whether we can compete on a playoff level. I think a new striker is going to help us. I think we're going to definitely benefit from having a full squad, a healthy squad. But again, I do agree. These 2 weeks are really going to show us a lot about the Dash, and I'm excited to learn about it. However, it's certainly, we need to keep into mind that these players have the mentality to really compete.
Yeah, I think so. I think that should show more, like you said, the mentality. Are they ready to compete? They have the month off. I know they have. I think a mental refresh. I think when you in the grind and not getting the result, that wears you down. And having that month off, to recap and everything to go back to your roots and go back to what do we need to do? What do we need to work on? And I think it's a good understanding. I think Big Bites mentioned that do they have a summer transfer window? It's really funny to say that because it's been almost like 2 or 3 weeks since the
Hmm.
transfer window and they only
Yeah.
made one signing. And so, does that cause you any trouble, or you think we still have enough time to add more additions to the team, or are we satisfied with the squad that we have right now?
I mean, I think everybody is pretty confident in saying that the Dash fans, especially, but the Dash in general, shouldn't be. They shouldn't necessarily be uh, comfortable with saying, "Hey, we don't need any more signings." I mentioned last episode that we need a striker. We got a striker, and I also said we need a midfielder, a veteran midfielder, to really orchestrate when the youngsters are there. We still haven't gotten that, and then maybe a reliable defender. Look, deals typically happen maybe I would say closer to the end of the transfer window rather than the beginning. The beginning I would say is more reserved for players that like adamantly know where they're going to sign. Um, but I mean, I really had a lot of faith with this Dash organization. I felt like this new regime per se has been doing a great job with player development, with player scouting, and so at this point, I'm just gonna sit there and throw my hands up in the air and say I think they're gonna do what's best, and if it works out, great. If not, we think about it like this is an improvement from last season, and honestly, anything is really better from that.
Yeah, I think so too. I think you know, the scouting department and the way they look for players, as we mentioned, they have done a great job. I think my only worry is, if that one transfer window, I think the beginning offseason was just a one-off hit, just a one-off, good. But I think if they get another two pieces and they gel and they, I think it's hard for right now because if you get a player right now, I think because we're not in a European, I think as you know MLS and those you're not in the European calendar, so you whatever players you get either from South or in Europe, they're not informed. They're like in their off season. They're won't help your team as much as you would need them right now to kick off and to keep the team running. So it's very hard what kind of conditions and if you're targeting a player like that just came from a good, excellent tournament like the Euros, AFCON, or the Combo Copa America, it's like they need rest and then they have to come in, and so it's a really tricky situation if you're the Dash if you need someone right now to help you get that push. So you gotta find that right player that's gonna not only help with the team but it's gonna come in and kick off, I think, with that as well. So it's just pretty much to see how it goes, but I think it's just good to see hopefully players
Mhm.
like hopefully Maggie Graham, Avery Patterson that gets a rest, Yasmin Ryan to get back to her 100%. Hopefully that's gonna help the team moving forward to get a good start. But I think from that on it should just keep going. But I think my last question for you, I think before we go into the preview for next game, where do you realistically? It's up to you. Realistically or not, how you feel is like where did that should finish the season?
I think honestly, I'm sticking to my prediction that we're gonna sneak into the playoffs with. If I remember, I'm honestly gonna get exposed right now with the playoff table, but I think the eighth spot is the final spot in the playoffs. I think that's still the case. They haven't switched it like MLS has.
It's, so the last playoff spot is to eighth. Yes.
Eighth, okay. So I think honestly we're gonna sneak into that eighth spot, but like I know there's KC Current, there's the Portland Thorns, there's Gotham, there's Angel City, there's Seattle Rain, Orlando. These are 5, 6 teams that pretty much have the playoffs locked. And so, yes, I do firmly believe that we're going to get that eighth spot, but it's not going to come easy. So I wouldn't be surprised if we don't get it. I do, however, have one question for you, Manny. We talked a lot about addressing this team's needs and really what we need to see from the Dash at least on a summer window level. Can you just really outline one position that you feel has a glaring need for that extra signing or that extra player to really give this team a new life?
It will be the left mid or the left wing back or the left winger that Ryan Garris occupies at the moment. I think for me, if I look at the team sheet where Fabrice always puts out, that's the one position I'm like, that needs a major upgrade. Ryan Garris, I think the first 4 or 5 games, we're like, okay, this is something new. Either
Mm,
because we haven't seen Ryan play for a while, or she was offering something different that she hasn't done in the previous game. But now it just trickles off. Now, Ryan's just running and just crossing, and the cross gets to a player, but nothing happens, or the cross is a little bit off. And then I think Ryan Garris offers more defensively because she has the speed to get back and track back, but it doesn't really help in the offensive way. Unlike if you look her counterpart, which is Avery Patterson, she does everything. She does defense, but she does it efficiently. And
mhm,
when she's on the ball, I think teams sit back. Oh, like, okay, they're gonna expect something from her. And when you see Ryan, you don't really see that as much. You see that her pace and maybe her passes, her, you know, passes that goes backwards and they're not progressive. They're just sideward passing. I wish you have more grit and more dynamic from her.
mhm,
I think before the break, I was talking like maybe a Julie Brand, but she went to Olympic Leon.
mhm,
But I think that's for me. If you look at just the sheet, that's an upgrade. Other than, of course, we had the new striker, Clarissa, coming in. But I think that would be the only, like, okay, this is a major need because defense wise, I think we're solid. Maybe not the best defense, but I think at their day, the defense can carry their own. I think it's just the communications. There's so much rotation coming in and injuries that hasn't solidified the defense.
mhm.
Goalkeeper, I do believe we have two good goalkeepers, Jane Campbell and Smith, Abby Smith. I think at their day, Abby can be one of the elite goalkeeper, and of course, Jane Campbell is world class on her day. And up top, you have Olivieri and Yasmin Wright can make big game changers when
Mhm.
they're on their game. And Messiah Bright or doesn't offer you goals, but helps well in the system. And hopefully Clarissa can offer something different. But I think the left mid position is always Ryan's spot. No one's really challenger on that, and I wish there was a player that can overtake that.
I agree. I feel like I agree with what you're saying, but I feel like we should stress a little bit more on the defensive
Mhm.
um, front because we haven't had a consistent back line all season, and whether through injury, whether through international duty or whatnot, that is something that I feel needs to be addressed. So that's why I'm more leaning to getting us like a proper center back, or maybe even if we have Avery Patterson, like a consistent solid right back wouldn't be that bad of an option to have because I mean we've seen Avery's gone. What happens to our offensive game? It almost becomes nothing. And so I think having that right back presence, even if the dash you're going for like a more defensive option, I think that's great because you still have that roster flexibility in order to really play when Avery Patterson is with the US team or Paige Nielsen is out for injury. And I feel like that's really why we've lost a lot of the games that we have. It's because of the inconsistency in the back line. I think our midfield it's fine enough to where yes, I understand. Like for example, Ryan is more defensively tuned and has been really using her speed to push the ball forward, but that hasn't really been clicking. But like I feel like that's a far smaller issue than the back line because at the end of the day, the reason why we're losing is because we're just conceding goals that we shouldn't really be conceding on a consistent basis, and that comes with getting some reinforcements in the back line.
Yeah, I think so. I think, if I want to counter back, if Avery is gone, I think my point stems a lot better because it's like, okay, then you have someone that can replace on the left side. But I think it's just I think we're both hitting the right conversations. I think just different positions of the way we see the plays because you do need the defense and the wing backs to communicate to be more structured. And it's kind of hard when they're always in and out and injured or something, especially every when she's out, there's when she's out, there's no one to create that, not even on the left or not even on the right. So it's
Mhm.
like you still have that glaring, I think, need for creativity and for to have that player to push up and push back in this system, but it's very hard to see where is this going from now. But I think we still have 2 to 3 more weeks in the transfer window, so it's hard. It's still hopefully hopeful that they get a player maybe in the league that can, come in immediately for the push. If it's internationally, great, but the problem is that we will miss out 3 to 4 weeks for them to come in. So hopefully we will see what will happen and see where we go from there. Now moving forward to the predictions for this weekend for the Bay FC. It's gonna be at, man. Is that late? Okay, man, I didn't realize how late it was gonna be that Saturday. So it's gonna be a Saturday at 9 p.m. So it's gonna be a late game for some of those people. So some of y'all folks, if you want to tune in. So it's gonna be Bay FC and head to head. We only faced Bay FC 3 times. It's just their existence, and we only the first game we won away. Second game when they were here, they won. I remember that game. That was the Avery Patterson goal, and then of course her first goal in the Dash jersey, and then this past May when we draw here at home. So it's a really good makeshift team, not really very consistent. Still has a lot of changes. Still their second season. They thought they had a good build, but seems too a little shaky in some parts. Uh, I just want to know your predictions for this game without going to scoreline. How can the Dash hurt this Bay FC side?
I think in order to hurt this Bay FC team, you need to really work through the wings. I think the Bay FC midfield is one of the strongest in the league, and I think if you break them down, you're also going to be one of the best teams in the league. And I don't think the Dash are at that level technically wise. So you need to play with speed. Maybe Orion Garris might be your key to really solving this game because of verticality of fast paced movement. Because I don't think that we're going to be successful building it from the back and just small progressive movements up on the field to get to the final third. I think it's more of a case of getting those transition moments and nailing the chances that we do get. My early prediction, honestly, it's going to be another like 3-2 game where like it's not going to be pretty. It's just going to be some goals that shouldn't really be scored, but they're going to be scored anyway. And I think we are going to get off on a good footing because I think Houston's gonna come off with a lot of momentum. But before I ask for your prediction, I we talked about this last episode, and we did have a good laugh about it. We are going to be seeing X two X dash players. For anybody in the chat, feel free to type out who it is. There's no prize, unfortunately. I do not have any authority to give prizes, but it is a cool moment. But meanwhile, Manny, who are those players?
It's gonna be Capri Tedesco, Joe Anderson, and if I want to give you a a deep lore on Dash,
Okay.
Abby Delkeper is also an ex Dash player,
Right.
but she only came here when she was rehabbing from injury before going to San Diego. So that was only the reason why she was here. So for that,
That's some deep lore. You were prepped for this, Manny. You were prepped for it.
I told you. I don't want to make you because I remember she was injured from Man City coming to off contract to the Dash, and then it was like only she came, as you mentioned, one of those signings came in from the summer transfer window and only played but she was still nursing that injury, so she only played for like 6 to 8 games, so it wasn't that much. But before going to San Diego, I think it was already obvious that she wanted to go to San Diego. So, but it was just to help her to get back on her feet.
Look at you with the deep cuts. I want to be so for real. I don't think I should be challenging you because I know I'm gonna get I know I'm gonna get exposed the next time you ask a question.
But I know it was something I was like, wait, I'm like when you got me thinking last time, I was like, man, I was like, okay, did the Asco Anderson like there's one more, and I was like, oh yeah, Abby, a dog capper. Yeah, she only played for like 8 games. But
Shout out Joel Anderson though, because she is, for those, this is some dumb art media trivia. She's the first Dynamo or Dash player ever to like one of my photography posts on Instagram. So shout out to her.
and
Shout out Joel for
that,
sponsoring photographers' work and supporting him.
now that's a deep cut. Now that's a deep cut.
That's a deep cut right there.
That's
That is a
deeper.
deep cut right now.
Yeah, that was deep. That was so deep that Diego started crying. And now she was Bay FC.
All right, but I gave my prediction a 3-2 dash win. Manny, let's hear it. What you got for us?
I think it's gonna be a high scoring game. I feel like every time the Dash plays Bay FC, it's always high scoring. Why? I have no freaking clue. I have no freaking clue why. I think both teams are great defensively. They're not really. I think they're not really try to attack you, but when the time they face each other, I feel like the defense is like the last thing they think about, and it's just all attacking. And I feel like this game shouldn't be, especially that you're coming back from a month break. Everyone still could be rusty, not fitness wise, is rusty. Like getting back into league play, getting back to everything. To I think to show off like what they were missing. I think you still be a little rusty, and that's still it's gonna be a I think high scoring game per quote. I think 2-1 to the Dash. I think that's gonna be what I'm thinking that it's gonna happen, but still hard, still a long ways to go. I think if the Dash can hit the left side, I think no, the right side. I think that would be great because I think the left side every time the Dash plays BFC, Caprita Dasco, Hill, Hawkling, always cover that right side of their field very well, while the left side feels like that's where the Dash exposed them the most. Their left side, our right side, and I feel like that's what the Dash should do. Moving forward, and so I think if they give this win, of course, no, not only they get 3 points, I think they'll be still be 14 points. They'll be just at least closer to that to that line push line, and so it's gonna be real good. I think it's I don't want to be pessimistic, but if they don't get these 3 points or lose, I think it's very hard for them. Very very hard for them to get
We
to
have
the
the whole half of the season ahead. Are you calling it quits after this one game?
no, because I'm just looking over. I think more the more I talk about it right now, the more I see it. It's very very. I think it's still doable, still doable. I think it just becomes a big, like a white sheet with a dot, the black dot. That dot has become bigger now. You know, has a lot bigger. It doesn't go smaller. It just becomes bigger. And I was like, okay, and the gap becomes bigger. I think if you because I think you say 3 games, now it becomes 4 games, and now it becomes it just makes it bigger and bigger and bigger. You know, but if they get the win, I'll be more optimistic for the second half. I'm just
That's
like
fair. No,
I think
that's fair. I think the Dash definitely do need this to make a statement, and I think that's undeniable. But I don't think it's like the end all be all.
no,
At
no,
the end of
not
these 2 weeks, I think let's make a reflection and really think about this critically. But I kind of see what your point is, even though I disagree. I just think it's never cut and dry in the NWSL because it's so competitive and so cutthroat. Like like 12 points or something separates the like playoff spot and the last place team. So I mean, I think we just need to just see the 2 weeks out and really see how this Dash team can really come together and how can they integrate a new striker. I mean, maybe she'll bag 20 goals for us. I don't know. She's probably not, but you never know.
yeah, I don't think so. Or maybe just get another striker from the women's African Cup of Nations. They have good strikers. Barbara Banda, Shawinga come from there. Hey, one can the Dash get one from there as well. But it is what it is. I think it's a good. a point to see, okay, where the dash can move on. I think once we see the Cyrus performance, I think we can come into next week and to be like, okay, this is how they play. Is a good start, especially when all the teams are rusty. All the teams are getting back to form. So it's a good team. It's a good start, and see what we do from now. But I can tell you from now moving forward, it's just gonna be very very high pace. It will be game, every week, and so every point counts now. Every
Mm.
point counts. So that'll be it, guys, for to see how the team's gonna be. We're looking forward for Saturday. It's gonna be away, so hopefully you'll be at home watching the game and see what you thought about it. So always look out for us on biocitysoccer.net, biocitysoccer on X, Instagram, YouTube, the Threads, the Blue Sky, the YouTube, everything. And also, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Ugly Guppy, Lotus Bravos, and We Got Soccer. And Diego, what you got to say for the crowd as you move
What
back
what I
to
gotta
New
say
York?
to the crowd? What do I say to got to a crowd? Shout out Joel Anderson. Shout out Maggie Graham. Shout out Manny Olivares, my absolute goat of a co-host. Again, so sad because I'm unfortunately not going to be doing another live show at Shell Energy Stadium. So he's going to be picking up the mantle with probably Rudy or something if I can't hop in electronically because I am going to New York again, unfortunately. However, I'm so excited for you guys to stay tuned to everything Dash once the NWSL gets back up. And yeah, you guys have a wonderful night. I know it's late night television. Rest rest in peace to late night with Stephen Colbert. Don't worry because we are getting all of your late night shows show starvings here instead of talking about late night stuff, we're gonna be talking the Dash. And I think that's quite all right. And so shout out. I appreciate you guys, and we'll see y'all next week.
Yeah, we'll see y'all next week, and hope everyone gets a rest. Hope that the Dash gets a win so we can be more positive and see, okay, what we can see from moving forward. But thank you all for joining us. Thank you for all stopping by. We'll see you all next time. Peace.
Peace.